Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into the foundational texts, focusing on a story many of us think we know, Prophet Noah, or knew. It's a powerful account of patience and judgment.
It really is. And when you move past maybe the storybook versions and look directly at the Quran and authentic Hadith, the level of detail is quite striking. We're kind of tracing a specific roadmap today from these sources.
Right. Our mission here is twofold, really. First, how did things go wrong? How did humanity drift from pure monotheism? And second, just how long and intense was Noah's mission? Because let's just state that mind-blowing fact up front.
Yeah, the sources are very clear. He lived among his people, calling them to God for 1,000 years less 50.
950 years.
950 years. It's right there in Surah Al-Ankabut.
ولقد أرسلنا نوحا إلى قومه فلبث فيهم 1000 سنة إلا 50 عاما فأخذهم الطوفان وهم ظالمون.
And that's why he's often called the Sheikh of the Prophets, Sheikh al-Anbiya. It signifies just extraordinary patience.
950 years. I mean, just think about the sheer stamina needed, socially, mentally, just to keep going generation after generation. But, okay, before we dig deeper into that, what was the situation he walked into? The sources say things started out okay, right, after Adam, Seth, Idris.
That's correct. There was a period where humanity lived according to what the text called the fitra, the sound, innate disposition, basically a natural recognition of the Creator.
So pure monotheism, everyone was on the same page, spiritually speaking.
Exactly. It was the default state, you could say. Simple, clear.
But defaults can change. How did that purity, that fitra, get corrupted? What was the actual mechanism?
Well, interestingly, it wasn't like someone just invented new gods overnight. The sources point to something more subtle. It started with honoring righteous people who had passed away.
Okay, so paying respect to good people. That sounds reasonable.
It sounds reasonable, but it became excessive. People made statues or memorials for these pious figures. And over time, maybe a generation or two later, the reason for the statues got lost.
So the memorials themselves became the focus, not the people they represented.
Precisely. What started as remembrance turned into reverence, and then eventually into actual worship. That's how polytheism, or shirk, re-entered the world according to these accounts.
And the texts even name them, don't they? These specific figures whose statues became idols.
Yes, remarkably specific.
وقالوا لا تذرن آلهتكم ولا تذرن ودا ولا سواعا ولا يغوث ويعوق ونسرا.
Wad, Suwa, Yaguth, Yakush, and Nasr. These weren't just random idols. They were linked to formerly respected individuals.
Wow. So that transition from respected figure to worshipped idol, that's the context for Noah's arrival. He was the first messenger sent after the specific type of deviation took hold.
Exactly. His task was huge because he wasn't just reminding people. He was trying to undo a deep-seated multi-generational practice of associating partners with God.
Which brings us back to the 950 years. This wasn't a quick campaign.
Not at all. The sources emphasize how comprehensive his approach was.
قال رب إني دعوت قومي ليلا ونهارا فلم يزدهم دعائي إلا فرارا.
He called them day and night. He spoke to them privately, one-on-one, and he addressed them publicly, openly. He tried every possible way.
For almost a millennium. That means he saw generations born and die while sticking to the same core message. And the response?
Overwhelmingly, it was arrogance and stubbornness. Just sheer obstinacy. Noah's own words, recorded in Surah Nuh, expressed this deep frustration.
وإني كلما دعوتهم لتغفر لهم جعلوا أصابعهم في آذانهم واستغشوا ثيابهم وأصروا واستكبروا استكبارا ثم إني دعوتهم جهارا ثم إني أعلنت لهم وأسررت لهم إسرارا.
Yeah. He says basically the more I called them, the more they ran away.
And not just running away passively, right? The text describes some very active resistance.
Oh, absolutely. Very vivid details. They literally put their fingers in their ears so they wouldn't have to hear his words.
Wow.
They pull their cloaks or garments over their heads, to not even see him. It was pure persistence and denial, coupled with immense arrogance, a total rejection.
Imagine seeing that day in, day out for centuries, people physically blocking out your message. It really paints a picture of the challenge he faced.
It truly does.
So after all that time, 9.5 centuries of this, There must have come a point where things shifted. How did Noah know, okay, the preaching phase is over?
That moment is a major turning point. After all that effort, he reached a realization, confirmed by divine revelation, that, well, no one else was going to come around. The decision was made.
A divine verdict, basically.
Yes. Surah Hud captures it starkly.
وأوحي إلى نوح أنه لن يؤمن من قومك إلا من قد آمن فلا تبتئس بما كانوا يفعلون.
No one will believe from your people except those who have already believed. That was it. The door for repentance for the masses, it seems, was closed.
That's heavy. It shifts everything from trying to persuade people to preparing for the consequences.
Exactly. And right after that realization, the command came.
واصنع الفلك بأعيننا ووحينا ولا تخاطبني في الذين ظلموا إنهم مغرقون.
Build the ark.
The ark. Not just any boat, but this massive vessel. Built, the text says, under our observation and our inspiration. So divinely guided construction.
Right. Designed for something unprecedented.
But the really wild detail here is where he built it.
Ah, yes. On dry land, miles from any sea or major river.
Which naturally must have looked completely absurd to everyone else.
Absolutely. This fueled intense mockery. Here's this guy, Noah, who they already thought was strange, preaching for centuries. Now he's building a giant boat in the middle of nowhere.
ويصنع الفلك وكلما مر عليه ملأ من قومه سخروا منه قال إن تسخروا منا فإنا نسخر منكم كما تسخرون.
The leaders, the common people, they all ridiculed him relentlessly.
You can almost hear them, can't you? Look at the crazy old man building a ship in the dust. It becomes this ultimate test foolishness to the disbelievers, but an act of pure faith for Noah and his few followers.
Precisely. It demonstrated complete trust in the divine warning, regardless of how illogical it seemed from a human perspective.
Okay, so the ark is built amidst all this scorn. Then comes the loading process. Who gets on board?
The command was specific.
حتى إذا جاء أمرنا وفارت النور قل نحمل فيها من كل زوجين اثنين وأهلك إلا من سبق عليه القول وما آمن معه إلا قليل.
Take a pair, male and female, of every living creature, plus his own family members, except those who had already been decreed for punishment, which we'll get to, and the small number of people who had actually believed over those 950 years.
A very small number, the sources imply.
Very small, yes. Then the judgment begins. And the description of the flood is terrifying. It wasn't just rain.
No, it says the earth itself burst forth with water, springs gushing everywhere.
Exactly. Water coming up from the ground, and simultaneously torrential rain pouring down from the sky. Unrelenting. The water level surged and the ark was carried along through waves like mountains.
وهي تجري بهم في موج كالجبال ونادى نوح ابنه وكان في معزل يا بني اركب معنا ولا تكن مع الكافرين.
Waves like mountains. Just imagine the scale of that. This wasn't a local flood. It was a world-altering cataclysm.
Total inundation.
Yep.
A complete cleansing, ensuring, according to the narrative, that the wrongdoing civilization was utterly wiped out.
Amidst this immense impersonal destruction, there's this incredibly personal, heartbreaking scene that unfolds. Noah sees his own son.
Yes. Even as the catastrophe is raging, you see the father's heart. Noah calls out to his disbelieving son. There's compassion there, desperate plea. Oh, my son, come aboard with us. Don't be among the disbelievers.
He's still trying, even then. But the son, what is his response?
The son refused. Tragically, he displayed the same arrogance as the society he grew up in. He thought he could save himself. He said he'd climb a mountain, that the mountain peak would protect him from the water.
A fatal miscalculation based on his own perceived strength rather than divine decree.
Exactly. And Surah Hud gives us that final exchange.
قال سآوي إلى جبل يعصمني من الماء قال لا عاصم اليوم من أمر الله إلا من رحم وحال بينهما الموج فكان من المغرقين.
Noah tells him, essentially, today there's no protection from Allah's decree, except for those he shows mercy to. It's a statement of absolute divine authority overriding everything else, even family ties.
And then?
And then, the waves surged between them. The son was drowned. Gone.
Wow. That shift from this massive global event to the specific loss of a child, it's incredibly powerful. It underscores that faith, or the lack of it, has individual consequences, even for the son of a prophet.
It's a stark lesson about personal responsibility and choice, isn't it? Lineage offers no special protection.
Absolutely. So the judgment is complete, the son is lost. How does the flood end?
As decisively as it began, the divine command comes. O earth, swallow your water, and O sky, withhold. Just like that. The rain stops, the gushing springs cease, the water recedes.
And the ark comes to rest.
It comes to rest on Mount Judi. The event is concluded.
The destruction was total for those who disbelieved.
وقيل يا أرض ابلعي ماءك ويا سماء أقلعي وغيض الماء وقضي الأمر واستوت على الجودي وقيل بعدا للقوم الظالمين.
So what does this mean for humanity going forward, according to these texts? What's Noah's ultimate legacy?
This is where his story takes on enormous historical weight within this framework. Since all the wrongdoers were destroyed, Noah effectively becomes the progenitor of the next phase of humanity.
Like a second Adam.
In a sense, yes, often called the second father of humanity. The source material, referencing Surah As-Safa, specifically states that his descendants, his progeny Ajtriya, were the sole survivors.
Sole survivors, meaning everyone on earth after the flood traces their lineage back to Noah and those on the ark.
According to this narrative, yes. His family and the few believers with him became the wellspring from which all subsequent nations and peoples spread across the earth. It frames his story not just as a moral lesson, but as a pivotal event in human history itself.
So his perseverance didn't just save a few souls, it literally saved humanity's future, ensuring its continuation on a foundation of monotheism, at least initially.
That's the perspective offered. His story marks a new beginning, carrying forward the lessons learned from that 950-year struggle against entrenched disbelief and arrogance.
Okay, so let's try to pull this together for everyone listening. We've journeyed through this account, looking at the core sources. What are the big takeaways? We saw how easily things can go wrong, how even honoring good people can slide into idolatry if you're not careful.
Right, that subtlety is crucial. Then there's the sheer power of Noah's perseverance. 950 years is almost impossible to truly grasp. And finally, the stark reality of the consequences for arrogance and rejecting the message.
And you mentioned earlier, there's a lesson here about critical thinking too, isn't there?
I think so, yeah. The way those respected figures were twisted into idols over time, it's a powerful example of how information, or maybe misinformation, can evolve and corrupt meaning across generations. It makes you think about how we receive and interpret information today.
That's a really relevant point. We finish up by talking about Noah as the second father of humanity, the ancestor of everyone after the flood. All those survivors carried the memory of this world-ending, world-remaking event.
Which leads us to a final thought, something for you to really chew on. If your entire world, everyone you knew, except your immediate family and a few others, was wiped out in a cataclysm because of their choices, how would that memory shape everything that came after?
How would knowing about that total destruction influence the way the survivors and their descendants built their new societies, their cultures, their understanding of right and wrong, and their relationship with the divine?
Exactly. How does that collective trauma and deliverance echo through history?
Something profound to consider. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.